Hi everyone, this is Jobenblue with the Dragon Stars Frieza First Form. This is the top of the box. Got some warnings, advertisements, stuff like that. There's the side of the box, really pretty artwork. Back of the box got all the other characters and the waves. I don't really like most of the Dragon Stars. I like this one, I like this one, I like Janemba, and I like Cooler, and that's about it. But I'm actually selling this one, which is why I have finally got the motivation to make this video. Just because the figure arts got announced recently, so it's pretty cool. And there's the UPC. Here's the bottom of the box, not much on it. And did I do this side? I don't know. It says Frieza First Form at the bottom. Let's go ahead and get this figure out of the packaging. This is what the package looks like. This is what the interior of the box looks like. Of course, this figure retailed for 20 bucks. As far as the hand accessories go, it comes with the two fists. It also has a pair of grab hands, or like Kamehameha hands, blast hands, whatever you want to call them. And then lastly, it has a pointing finger. So if it's not immediately apparent, what I did to this figure is I went over it with either a Gundam marker or with this Tamiya Panaline accent color black. And so basically what you do is you either go over all the panel lines with the pen, or you can use the marker, and they both have their upsides and downsides to using each. It's a lot easier to get rid of the panel lining with the fluid form, but it looks a lot nicer with the Gundam pen. So with the Gundam pen, I'd recommend you go over like all of the bracers and everything here that you see, like his armor bits. And then for the actual liquid color, I would recommend going over his body parts, his actual body. This was a very long and time-consuming process, just to like get over everything, and as you can see, it hasn't turned out perfect. This was my first figure that I actually used the panel wash on. I've always used the Gundam pen, but not the marker. And the kneecap is a little ugly, especially if you decide to panel line this. And I guess you could panel line just a little bit more inside of there. It seems that I missed a couple of spots whenever I did this. Really enjoy how these armor bits turned out. What I could have used instead of a gunpla marker on this is actually pencil, which is what I did with this Scouter Vegeta. You can see the difference right there. The gunpla marker is a lot more thick, and the pencil is more spot on. So I guess if I was going to do this figure again, now knowing how good pencil is and how easy it is to remove pencil, I'd probably have done this figure in pencil. I think I also colored in the feet here with the Gundam pen. Of course, it hasn't turned out perfect. I think I did the fingers as well. Yeah, because they weren't painted, but canonically it is painted. I did some work around the face, his like, not gills, but I'm calling them gills, and then his earpiece. I don't know if this comes off or not, but the head does come off, and it is not very easy to get this on there. I had to hot water treat it in order to get the head off, and I don't know about that Scouter, if it's sculpted or not. I just can't figure it out from looking at it. Part of me wants to go in here and hot water treat this and try and pry it off, but it may just be a simple like peg system, you know. So I haven't done that on here, and I'm not going to, because the figure arts has a removable Scouter. But all the colors look nice. I would say that this is one of the best Dragon Stars ever made. I've owned multiple Dragon Stars, but there have only been about 4 that I would say are worth keeping, and those are this one, Cooler, Perfect Cell, and Janemba. I've got some of the SSJ4s, but they're not very good, and of course, Hit does not have a good face. So as far as articulation goes, the head goes up and down, goes left and right, of course goes 360. There is a separate neck piece, but it doesn't really do anything because it's limited by this back here. You could, of course, try and pry this out, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, if you take out a Dragon Star's neck on this or Janemba or Perfect Cell, I know for a fact that it's very hard to get the necks back in because there is a very large ball joint on the bottom of the neck, and it is just almost impossible to put it back in, and especially because the material that they used on the neck is not really one that likes to contract and expand very well. So if you try and squish it in and put it back in, it's not going to go well. You might as well just not take out the necks on these figures. But it does have a separate neck. I don't know why. The chest is all one piece. Nothing comes up and down, but on the Figuarts, these are two different pieces, and this comes up and down, but that's just not the case for this one. There's no butterfly joint in here, but I would also say that it's not really horrible because it does have a bicep, and so if this character had a sword, you wouldn't really have a problem holding him in a base position. Would it be perfect? No, especially you couldn't recreate everything anime accurate, but still, I'm not going to fault this. It's got bicep joints. That's all it really needs to do. And it also has double jointed elbows, and those come up extremely far. No problems there. These arms do come out pretty easily. You can also just pop them right back in. The hands are on Figuarts type joints, which is ball hinges. And for $20 figures, having this kind of joint as opposed to the kind of crap that they do with Star Wars Black Series, where it's limited to either up and down or left and right, Dragon Stars is just killing it in that department. There is a waist swivel, goes 360, no problem there. It does separate right here at the waist. Here's kind of like a 3-point stance. You can basically go to the ground and grab something, and it doesn't look like totally horrible. It looks decent. You need to be able to be like this if you wanted to match human anatomy, and that is just way too much blue tack to put on there. I'll see with the Figuarts Frieza if they use their catapult joint and it's not very good. I'll see if blue tack will help give it a more dynamic bend over. His fist can actually touch his toes. That's pretty cool. It's not exactly head on, but you do have to twist it just slightly and push just a little bit. It's still pretty good. And of course, it's Dragon Stars, so they have like inbuilt mechanics where if you push on them too hard, they'll pop out, so you don't actually break the figure. So for the actual leg articulation, there is, of course, a little bit of a drop down. It's not very good. A little bit of a thigh swivel. If you go out a little bit, it'll go 360. It does what Figuarts does, is that there's an internal part, and then there's another external part on there. Here's how far it kicks forward, and then you can go a little bit higher, but the problem with that is this is done at an angle, and it's not really accurate to your foot. In terms of human anatomy, it would have been better if there was a thigh cut, but I would say that still passes pretty good. Of course, it's a little off angle, but for the most part, it's pretty good. And it goes back pretty far. It can go like 360 around the leg at a pretty good angle. It can kind of like sit down pretty good as well. It kicks out to 90 degrees, no problem. It does have double jointed knees, but is of course limited by the armor that's on his leg there. But still pretty good bend. And these are also on breakaway joints. They're unlikely to break, but I mean they can. Like I think my cooler does it. Yeah, cooler has that. So no problems with the feet. Goes up, goes back, and there is an ankle rocker, forward-facing pin So it does rock back and forth. No real problems. I have no complaints about that. The tail comes out if you want it to. I don't know why you would. That's what it looks like. Just pops back in. And there's a rotation right here, and as well as back here. So it goes full 360, as well as it rotates around here to give some more life to his tail. As far as articulation goes, it's pretty good. It's not perfect, because it would be nice to have these out of the way. It'd be nice to have an ab crunch, but even whenever Dragon Stars does implement an ab crunch, it doesn't always do a lot, because nobody does what they do with Spider-Man figures, which is put an off angle to the actual joint, which would allow for a very good crunch forward. So this is about as well as he curls into a ball. He does go into a sitting pose, so if you had a pod for him, he would fit in there pretty good. Scouter color is pretty good as well. I haven't really seen any areas where the paint looks bad, but I guess you can see on his eye. It's not in there perfect. I don't know if that's because of something I did or if it's just came out of the box like that. So it looks pretty good whenever you have it paint aligned and done properly. And of course, this is not the best job I've ever done, but whenever you do paint align, it can make this figure look even better than it already does. And I plan to do that with most of my figure arts, and even the new first form Frieza that's coming out. In terms of like actually doing Supernova, it doesn't do, I mean, it's alright. The lack of a pauldron bend, I guess, it really just doesn't look as good as it does on the figure arts. But I mean, what can you expect? This is a $20 figure, and the figure arts, because it comes with Frieza's pod, is probably going to be closer to, I don't know, maybe like $80. So that's it for the articulation, accessories, and all that. I'll go ahead and show off the size comparison now. So Frieza stands about 5 1/4 to the top of his ball, and 5 1/2 to the top of his horn. Here he is, of course, next to a Goku. Here he is next to the King Cold Funko Pop. Here he is next to the Dragon Stars cooler. Here he is next to the AT-AT driver. Here he is next to Figure Arts Golden Frieza. A slightly crunched down Force Unleashed Stormtrooper Commander. Here he is next to fourth form Frieza. So it's obvious from the screenshot in Dragon Ball Super Broly that this is oversized compared to Final Form Frieza as well as Golden Frieza. Golden Frieza is supposed to be slightly smaller than Final Form Frieza. So this one is a little oversized, but you're never going to have first form Frieza posed next to those other two forms. If I'm going to give this a final rating, I would give it about a 2.5. I would not be selling this if we were not getting a figure arts, but because I am mainly a figure arts collector, I'm going to go ahead and sell this one and get the figure arts. Hopefully the figure arts will be smaller, not bigger than the Dragon Stars, but even the figure arts don't oftentimes scale very well with each other. Like, even 2.0 Piccolo is supposed to be bigger than it chose to be. Of course, the Grade 8 Vegeta is too small, even for its Budokai Tenkaichi 3 size. This is a great figure if you can't afford the figure arts, or if for some reason the figure arts is like $200 by the time that you're watching this video. This is still a really good figure to get, and you're not going to regret it. This has been Jobenblue. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.